Major Dominic Vega's breathing came in ragged gasps as he crawled through the maintenance shaft. The Ravager's core pulsed 30 meters ahead, a swirling vortex of destructive energy preparing to fire upon the azure world of Thalia hanging in space below. "Status report, Major," General Hayes crackled through his comms. "Almost there," Dominic replied, ignoring the blood seeping through his combat suit where shrapnel had pierced his side. "The rest of the team." A hesitation. "You're the only one who made it past the defense grid." He swallowed hard. 20 soldiers had dropped with him. Now it was just him standing between a planet of 8 billion souls and annihilation. The shaft opened into a spherical chamber dominated by a pulsating crystalline structure. Tendrils of violet energy arced outward as the weapon entered its final charging sequence. Dominic's instruments showed less than 4 minutes until firing. "I'm at the core," he reported, pulling the specialized disruptor from his pack. The device, barely larger than his palm, represented the combined genius of 3 world scientists. "The crystalline matrix is bigger than our intel suggested," he added, studying the structure. "The disruptor may not have enough power to neutralize it completely." "It has to work, Vega," Hayes said. "There's no backup plan." Dominic made complex calculations in his head, his enhanced tactical implants processing variables faster than any normal human could. The solution came to him with cold clarity. "I need to place the disruptor directly inside the matrix," he said. "It means getting past those energy arcs." "That's suicide, Major." "With respect, sir, 8 billion lives outweigh mine." Without waiting for a response, Dominic disabled his suit's protective field. It would only trigger the security countermeasures and approach the pulsing heart of the weapon. Each step brought searing pain as energy tendrils lashed his exposed flesh. His enhanced physiology could withstand more radiation than an unmodified human, but not this much. Not for long. 2 minutes left. The crystals shifted, opening a narrow passage toward the center. Dominic lunged forward, his body screaming in protest as energy tore through him. With a final effort, he thrust the disruptor deep into the matrix's core and activated it. The disruption field expanded, interfering with the weapon's energy patterns. The violent purple light stuttered, flickered, then collapsed inward. Dominic barely managed to stagger backward before the shockwave hit him, slamming him against the chamber wall. As consciousness faded, he glimpsed the beautiful blue-green world through a viewport, still intact, still alive. His mission was complete. That was enough. Dominic awakened to a ceiling of iridescent shells arranged in spiraling patterns. Not the sterile white of a military medical bay, nor the dark metal of the Ravager. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. "Please remain still, Major Vega," came a melodious voice unlike any human tone. "Your healing is incomplete." A figure moved into his field of vision, tall and graceful with skin, the color of opal that seemed to shimmer with subtle luminescence. Large, almond-shaped eyes of deep violet studied him with intensity. "I am Alara," she said, her translator rendering her complex language into something he could understand. "Crown Princess of the Thalian Sovereignty, you saved my world." "Just doing my job, Your Highness," he managed, his throat dry. "The Thalian people do not consider the salvation of our entire species to be merely someone's job," she replied, a musical lilt in her voice that might have been amusement. She placed a 6-fingered hand gently on his forehead, her touch cool and soothing. "You have created a debt that cannot be measured or easily repaid." Something in her tone made Dominic wonder exactly what that meant. The princess's gaze held his with an intensity that transcended species barriers. Behind her, through high arched windows, he could see the sweeping spires of a city unlike any human architecture, crystalline structures catching the light of a peach-colored sky. "Rest now," Princess Alara said softly. "Soon enough we will discuss what comes next." Her expression held something Dominic couldn't decipher. Determination, calculation, and perhaps something more personal that made his pulse quicken despite his injuries. As he drifted back to sleep, Dominic wondered what exactly he had gotten himself into by saving this beautiful alien world. 7 days after awakening on Thalia, Major Dominic Vega stood uncomfortably in ceremonial attire provided by his hosts, a flowing garment of material that shifted colors with his movements. Around him, the grand assembly hall of Thalian sovereignty teemed with dignitaries from both worlds. You look like you'd rather face another planet killer, remarked Captain Jenna Foster, his second-in-command, who had arrived with the diplomatic contingent. Give me a straight fight any day, Dominic muttered. Politics makes my skin crawl. The hall fell silent as Princess Alara entered. Tonight, her opalescent skin was adorned with intricate patterns that caught the light, and she wore a crown of living crystal that seemed to pulse with its own internal rhythm. Dominic couldn't help but stare. Her alien beauty was mesmerizing. People of Thalia and honored guests of Earth, Alara's voice carried effortlessly through the vast chamber. We gather to honor those who prevented our extinction. Particularly, we recognize Major Dominic Vega, whose sacrifice nearly cost his life. Dominic inclined his head as protocol demanded, but something in Alara's expression made him uneasy. She approached him directly, her movement fluid like water. For a debt of such magnitude, our ancient laws speak clearly, she continued. When one saves not merely a life but an entire world, there is only one appropriate response. She knelt gracefully before him, a gesture that sent shocked murmurs through the assembly. I invoke the Cathani, she declared. I offer myself to you, Major Vega of Earth, as bondmate and companion, to forge a union between our worlds as sacred as the stars themselves. The hall erupted in chaos. Captain Foster choked on her drink. Dominic stood frozen, struggling to comprehend. High Counselor Talon, an elder Thalian with crystalline growth signifying advanced age, stepped forward. Your Highness, while the law is clear, perhaps in this unique circumstance. The law is absolute, Alara interrupted, rising to her feet with regal authority. Would you have our people dishonor our most sacred tradition at the moment we owe our greatest debt? Major Vega isn't even of our species, another council member protested. The Cathani makes no such distinction, Alara countered. It speaks only of life debts and honor. Dominic finally found his voice. Your Highness, I appreciate the honor, but I was simply doing my duty. No reward is necessary. Alara turned to him, her violet eyes intense. This is not merely a reward, Major. It is our most sacred covenant. To refuse would cause grave offense. A human diplomat hurriedly approached, whispering urgently in Dominic's ear. This could cement human-Thalian relations for centuries. The alliance would be strongly appreciative if you considered accepting. Dominic fought to maintain composure. He couldn't deny his attraction to Alara, alien though she was, but this felt wrong, too fast, too calculated. I request time to understand the full implications of this tradition, he said carefully. Alara nodded. You have until the alignment of moons 7 days hence. As the assembly dispersed, Counselor Talon approached with several noble-born Thalians. Their crystalline adornments marked them as members of powerful houses. A clever maneuver, Princess, one said coldly, using ancient law to avoid the succession trials by binding yourself to an alien. My intentions honor our traditions, Alara replied evenly, unlike those who would collude with enemies to attack our world. Dominic noted the accusation and the flicker of discomfort across several faces. There was more happening here than a simple reward. Later in the private gardens, Alara found him staring at Thalia's 3 moons. I've placed you in an impossible position, she admitted. Was saving your people worth becoming a political pawn? He asked. You misunderstand, Alara said softly. The Cathani is sacred beyond politics, but I won't deny that some see my choice as convenient. And what do you see it as? Dominic asked, turning to face her. Alara's skin luminescence intensified, what he now recognized as the Thalian equivalent of a blush. An unexpected path that perhaps the stars themselves have written. Her fingers brushed his, sending an electric current through his body that had nothing to do with alien biology and everything to do with the connection forming between them. The singing caverns formed over 2 million Earth years, Alara explained, as she led Dominic through a vast underground chamber where crystal formations created haunting melodies as air currents passed through them. My ancestors believed they contained the voices of our departed. Dominic listened, mesmerized both by the ethereal music and his guide. For 4 days, Alara had shown him the wonders of her world, a cultural exchange that felt increasingly personal. It's beautiful, he said sincerely. Reminds me of wind chimes on my grandmother's porch, but on a cosmic scale. Alara tilted her head. You must show me these wind chimes if I visit Earth someday. When, Dominic corrected automatically, then paused, surprising himself. Was he actually considering this union? They settled on a crystalline outcropping, their shoulders nearly touching. Tell me honestly, Dominic said. Is this Cathani truly about honoring tradition, or is it political maneuvering? Alara's luminescence dimmed slightly, a sign of serious contemplation he'd come to recognize. Both, she admitted. The tradition is genuine and sacred, but yes, as crown princess approaching the succession trials, my choice of bondmate carries political weight. She met his gaze directly. However, I would not invoke such a covenant without personal inclination. Dominic's heart raced. You hardly know me. I know you risked everything for people not your own, she replied. I know your spirit burns brightly enough to be visible even across the divide of our different evolutions. Is that not a foundation worth building upon? Before he could respond, Captain Foster interrupted, approaching with a grim expression. Sir, we've received intelligence. The weapon platform wasn't deployed by the Sarathi as we believed. Analysis suggests Thalian technology was involved. Ilara stiffened. Impossible. The evidence indicates otherwise, Your Highness, Foster replied, presenting data on her tablet. Dominic studied the information. An inside job, but who would benefit from destroying their own world. Someone who never expected it to succeed, Ilara whispered, realization dawning. Someone who anticipated your mission, counting on you to stop it heroically, but never imagining I would invoke the Cathani afterward. Later that evening, as twin moons rose over the Crystal City, Dominic found himself on the balcony of his quarters, contemplating the increasingly complex situation. A soft chime announced Ilara's arrival. The noble houses are in uproar, she said without preamble. Half believe you're manipulating me, the others believe I'm manipulating them. And what's the truth? Dominic asked. Ilara moved closer, her natural fragrance reminding him of night-blooming jasmine. The truth is I find myself drawn to you in ways I never anticipated. The Cathani may have begun as obligation, but my feelings have grown beyond duty. Her honesty disarmed him. Impulsively, Dominic reached out, his fingers tracing the luminescent patterns on her arm. Ilara's breath caught as their bioelectric fields harmonized, creating a sensation that transcended physical touch. I feel it too, he admitted, but my world, my duty. Would having a Thalian princess as bondmate not serve your world's interests as well? She asked, moving closer still. Their first kiss was tentative, an exploration of alien sensation. Her lips held a subtle electric charge that sent waves of pleasure through him. When they parted, Ilara's entire form glowed brightly enough to illuminate the balcony. That was, she whispered, diplomatic relations at their finest, Dominic finished with a smile, then grew serious. If we do this, if I accept the Cathani, we do it for us, not for politics or tradition. Ilara took his hands in hers. 3 days remain before you must decide. Let us use them wisely. The great hall fell silent as Lord Brannock, his crystalline growths arranged in aggressive patterns, stepped forward. His status as leader of the most traditional noble house gave weight to his challenge. Major Vega, he announced formally, I invoke the right of qualification. Before any outsider can be accepted through Cathani into the royal line, they must prove their worthiness through the trial of essence. Murmurs swept through the assembled dignitaries. Dominic glanced at Ilara, whose expression remained carefully neutral despite the tension evident in her posture. I accept, Dominic stated firmly before any diplomat could intervene. He had studied enough Thalian culture to know refusal would invalidate any potential union. The trial took place at dawn in the ancient amphitheater carved from a single massive crystal. Thousands of Thalians and the entire human delegation watched as Dominic, dressed only in ritual garments, entered the arena. The trial has 3 challenges, Ilara had explained the night before, her body still intertwined with his after their passionate exploration of their physical compatibility. Mind, spirit, and body, few outsiders have ever passed even one. The mental challenge came first, a complex 3-dimensional puzzle that required understanding Thalian mathematical principles. Dominic's tactical implants helped, but it was his natural problem-solving ability that ultimately found the solution. The spiritual challenge proved harder. meditation while exposed to frequencies that human nervous systems found excruciating. For 2 hours, Dominic endured what felt like fire in his veins, finding center through techniques Alara had taught him. The final challenge was combat against Brannick himself. The Thalian lord was centuries old, but moved with frightening speed, his crystalline-enhanced limbs leaving shallow cuts across Dominic's body. "Your perseverance is admirable," Brannick noted as they circled each other, "but ultimately futile. You cannot truly understand our ways." "Understanding comes through effort, not birth," Dominic replied, implementing a strategy that used the Thalian's greater weight against him. The decisive moment came when Dominic, instead of striking a winning blow, stepped back and offered reconciliation in the traditional Thalian gesture. Brannick's surprise was evident. "You could have struck me down," the Lord observed. "That would have won the fight, not the challenge," Dominic replied. "I seek to join your people, not defeat them." The amphitheater erupted in approval. Even Brannick offered grudging respect. Later, as Alara treated his wounds in her private chambers, evidence from Captain Foster's investigation arrived. "Brannick's second cousin financed the weapon," Dominic said, reviewing the data. "They never expected it to fire, just to create a crisis that would force you to delay your ascension." "And instead I invoked Cathani," Alara said, her fingers tracing the new scars on his chest, "changing the game entirely." Their eyes met, and words became unnecessary. Their bodies joined in a union that transcended species, her bioluminescence enveloping them both as pleasure built in waves of light and sensation. Their climax brought a psychic connection unique to Thalian intimacy, allowing each to experience the other's pleasure in a feedback loop of ecstasy. Afterward, lying amidst the gossamer sheets, Dominic made his decision. "Tomorrow is the alignment of moons," he said softly. "I've made my choice." Alara's eyes searched his, and "Some rewards," he said, kissing her, "are worth changing your entire life for." The alignment of moons occurred once per Thalian year, a celestial event when all 3 moons formed a perfect triangle in the night sky. The ancient amphitheater, now transformed with luminous flora and crystalline decorations, hosted dignitaries from both worlds. Dominic stood beneath the aligned moons, dressed in ceremonial attire that blended Thalian tradition with subtle elements of his Earth military uniform. The evidence against Brannick's family had been presented to the High Council, leading to their disgrace and removal from power. General Hayes approached him before the ceremony. "The Alliance is pleased with your decision, Major. This union secures our position in this sector for generations." "With respect, sir," Dominic replied, "I'm not doing this for the Alliance." Hayes studied him. "You actually care for her, the alien princess." "She has a name," Dominic said quietly, "and yes, I do." The ceremony began as the moons reached perfect alignment, bathing the amphitheater in tricolored light. Alara approached, her natural luminescence enhanced by ceremonial adornments, looking otherworldly and breathtaking. High Counselor Talon officiated, his ancient voice carrying across the hushed gathering. "The Cathani is our most sacred tradition, dating back to our civilization's dawning days," he intoned. "Through it, we honor life debts of the highest order." Alara knelt before Dominic, offering the traditional phrase, "My life and world were preserved by your action. I offer myself as the living embodiment of our people's gratitude." This was the moment where, according to tradition, Dominic should simply accept. Instead, he knelt down to her level, causing murmurs of surprise. "On Earth," he said, his voice clear and confident, "we believe that true unions must be equal partnerships." He took her hands in his. "I don't accept you as a reward or obligation, but as my chosen companion. In return, I offer myself to you with the same commitment." Gasps and whispers swept through the crowd at this unexpected modification of the ancient ritual. Alara's eyes widened, then filled with emotion as she understood the significance of his action. "The human alters the sacred words," someone protested. "He honors their essence," Talon countered, surprising everyone with his support. "The Cathani has endured because it adapts while preserving its core truth." Dominic and Alara spoke the binding words in unison, her in flowing Thalian, him in carefully practiced syllables. As they finished, the aligned moons seemed to pulse brighter, their combined light forming a perfect circle around the couple. Two worlds, two traditions, now joined as one, Talon declared. What the stars have witnessed cannot be undone. The celebration lasted until dawn. Representatives from both species cautiously intermingled, finding more common ground than expected. Captain Foster raised a toast to diplomatic relations with benefits, making Dominic almost choke on his drink. In the quiet aftermath, Dominic and Alara stood on the royal balcony overlooking the Crystal City as sunrise painted the spires in gold and amber. "Your career with Earth Force?" Alara asked softly. "Transitioning to diplomatic liaison," he replied, "though I suspect they'll still call on my tactical expertise when needed." He drew her close. "And your ascension?" "The Council has confirmed my right to rule with you by my side," she said. "Some still grumble, but they cannot deny your worthiness after the trial." They kissed as the first full light of day washed over them, their bodies resonating in the unique harmony they discovered between their different biologies. "Did you ever imagine," Alara whispered against his lips, "that saving my world would lead to this?" Dominic smiled, his fingers tracing the luminescent patterns that now partially matched his own, a physical manifestation of their bond. "The best rewards are the ones we never see coming." Above them, the three moons remained faintly visible in the morning sky, a reminder of alignment found between different worlds, different species, and two hearts that had crossed the void between stars to find each other.